What is up, everybody? We are back with our team reviews. We are on to the New York Giants. I think we are 9 teams away from finishing. Just a little bit of a relief. It is August 17th, Thursday. It's I think the first preseason game of the second week of preseason games is going to happen in about 30 minutes or so. So a lot can change again from now to when you are drafting, hopefully around Labor Day weekend. Still a couple weekends away. So keep that in mind. Dad, we're on to the New York Giants. I think a pretty straightforward, except for maybe the receiver room's a little bit of a mess, I'd say. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't mean they're bad. I don't know if any of them are fantasy giants or anything like that. But they do have themselves a pretty good tight end now, but
yeah,
everybody else is kind of it's kind of what they call a soup sandwich,
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be tough to figure out. I think there's going to be value somewhere. It's just going to be where does that value come from?
Who is that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So as always, this is more for redraft than anything redraft football, fantasy football. We approach things, our rankings and our stats from a half PPR point of view, but you can apply it to whatever you play. And we'll just get right into it, starting with the quarterbacks, or the quarterback, Daniel Jones. Career year for Daniel Jones last year, in terms of just being a good quarterback and leading a team to the playoffs, not doing too much and not losing games and just doing enough kind of. Brian Daboll came in and did similar things that he did with Josh Allen, and turning Josh Allen to, obviously Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen, but similar things. So last year, Daniel Jones was the QB 7, I believe, QB 9, and he averaged 18.4 points a game. He missed a game, so he would have, if he played a full season, he would have been, a top 7 guy. Averaged more points than Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert. The list can keep going, kind of. So, Dad, are you kind of buying into Daniel Jones again this year as your QB1? If you kind of wait on QB, he is going QB 14 and looks like about 9th round. So if you wait on QB, are you okay with Daniel Jones?
Unfriggin' believably, I am finally on board with it. The running quarterback, so the Jalen Hurts, the Lamar Jackson, the Daniel Jones, even though Daniel Jones it's not quite at the same level as the first two guys, but I would not be displeased with myself on picking Daniel Jones. So he had a lot of yards rushing. He had over 700 yards. And, his passing numbers are not stupendous or anything. If he can just repeat what he did last year, and he should, this is coming into his 5th year. So his 2nd year with his current head coach and everything. So hopefully they can work miracles together again.
Yeah, you mentioned it with the rushing, and it wasn't just a fluke. He's always had that in him. He's a very athletic guy, and he just never ran as much as he did until last year. He did have over 400 yards in 2020, so he's shown he can do it. Also had 7 rushing touchdowns, which is really nice. So, if you play in a 6-point per passing touchdown or 4-point per passing touchdown, anyways, he has 22 total touchdowns. He threw for 15, which is not a lot, but you got to add the 7 rushing in there. This is the range where I like to start thinking about quarterback. This is the Kirk Cousins, this year at least, the Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff range. Those 4 guys, or 5 if I mentioned 5. Those guys are kind of going right around here, where this is the range where I like to, take my quarterback rather than taking a 2nd-round pick on a Jalen Hurts, who, obviously I love, but, 2nd-round pick, there's a lot of other guys you can get there at the wide receiver or running back position. So, my only worry with Daniel Jones is we haven't seen him do it just with his arm. He set a career high in passing yards last year, and it was 3,200 yards. His career high in passing touchdowns is 24 his rookie year, and last year is his second best at 15. Did only have 5 interceptions, which is nice, but I'm just a little worried. As like, okay, what if he gets dinged up, a groin injury or something, and the running goes away for a few games? Can he give you fantasy relevancy with just his arm? We just haven't seen it. So that's my only concern. But, I'm fine with taking Daniel Jones, and I think he can kind of repeat what he did last year. And, it gets down to, like Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Jared Goff. Like, to me, these are kind of like the last trains leaving the station type of situation where I don't have one of these guys or anyone ahead of them as my QB1. I'm really starting to worry, because then it drops down to Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, Brock Purdy. Like, I don't want those guys, right, as my QB1. So that's where I'm at with Daniel Jones. But the rushing floor is nice. I think he had like 3rd most rushing yards for a quarterback. So, but yeah, we're gonna get into the running backs here with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley signed his contract. He is going to be back with the Giants at least one more year. A lot of people were afraid of Saquon Barkley because he kind of had back-to-back disappointing years, an ACL tear, and then the year off his ACL tear didn't look so good. He also re-aggravated an ankle or something. Last year, though, in half PPR, Saquon Barkley was the running back 6, averaged 16 points a game. So he bounced back, and it's showing in the ADP. Dad, Saquon Barkley, is it McCaffrey, Eckler, and then Barkley's the 3rd guy? Or do you have Bijan or Nick Chubb over him?
Well, all those guys are very close together, and in the past, I've been hesitant. After his rookie year, I was hesitant to take Saquon. I've never drafted him in a fantasy league, believe it or not, but I'm open, for taking him right around the 5th running back and stuff like that. So, I think that should be like maybe in the 2nd round, I'm thinking, maybe early 2nd round, maybe late 1st round. I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, depending on where you get your ADP, he's going 8th overall, but sometimes that will probably get pushed to 10th, or it's late 1st, I think, for the most part, in half PPR especially. Maybe PPR, it's a little further out. But yeah, Saquon's really good. There's not many running backs that can kind of do it all in terms of running and catching. It's like McCaffrey, it's Eckler, it's Saquon, maybe Bijan, we will see. But, like Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, these guys don't really catch as much. They run a lot more, but these guys can kind of do it all. Saquon last year, 57 catches, 76 targets. I honestly don't really see that changing, because we're going to get into it with the receiving room, and there's not a whole lot here maybe to fall back on. So I love
I think
Saquon.
He's going to get the ball a lot. So, I expect a very, very similar year, minus injury. That's with every player, of course, but this guy, good football player,
Yeah, definitely. And he didn't, he had 10 touchdowns, but it felt like he could have had more. He had over 350 touches last year. So if you get 350 touches, you kind of expect to get, 12 plus. He had no receiving touchdowns, which is a little strange by catching 57 passes. But, the guy's really good. You can't really go wrong, in my opinion. If you don't have a top-end pick where you can get a McCaffrey or a Justin Jefferson, and you're sitting there at 8-9 and Saquon falls to you, like, I think you should be happy. So, no problems with him going in the 1st round at all. Backups, not much to talk about, because I think if Saquon does get hurt, it's either going to be the trio of these guys, Matt Breida, Eric Gray, Gary Brightwell, or they're going to just bring someone else in that's maybe on the streets or something, like which we see every year kind of happen. I don't really see, like, there's very few running backs to me that are kind of like true handcuffs where, okay, if the number one guy goes down, it's this guy's all in, right? Think Alexander Madison to Dalvin Cook for the years. It's like, all right, if Cook goes out, it's all Madison. I don't really see that here, so I don't really see a need for any of these guys to be drafted. Eric Gray for Dynasty, rookie, you can catch the ball. He's intriguing, but beyond that, Dad, do you kind of agree with that? No interest in Matt Breida or
No,
Gary
not
Brightman?
really.
Yeah.
I did hear. I heard this during OTAs that Paris Campbell, one of the wide receivers, was getting some plays as a running back and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny. I know the guy's probably got speed and everything else. He's not a very big guy, but
yeah, I did hear that too. So it's a good transition into the receivers. We talked about it at the top of the show, like kind of a soup sandwich is what you said. Just a bunch of guys. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Sterling Shepard, Cole Beasley, Jamison Crowder. Like, these are all names that and we have no idea how it's going to all play out. I mean, that's 8 guys I just listed off. I don't imagine they're going to carry 8 receivers. Most teams carry 6 at the most. So we don't even know who's necessarily going to make the team. A lot of guys coming off like major injuries. I think Sterling Shepard is one of those. Wan'Dale Robinson's another one, coming off a major injury. Right now, actually, surprisingly, the number one drafted. Well, first of all, they don't have any. It looks like they don't have any receiver being drafted in the top 140, which is kind of crazy. No receiver being drafted essentially in the first 12 rounds is what you're saying, which doesn't happen very often. Jalen Hyatt is actually the highest in ADP. The rookie, third-round rookie from Tennessee. He's been getting a lot of hype because he is super fast. I don't buy it, Dad. I mean, we watched him and stuff. Like, yeah, he looked impressive, but he kind of seems like a one-trick pony. I don't buy it for fantasy, at least this year. Is there anyone on this list? Paris Campbell's the next being taken, and then Isaiah Hodgins, and then Wan'Dale. Any guys on this list that you're interested in? Like, if you had to take a shot on one Giants receiver.
I don't know, because Slayton's 30 years old. The other guys, it's just I don't know. Wan'Dale Robinson, he looked pretty good, but he blew his knee out. I'm not even sure if he's playing or something, to tell you the truth, or if he's off the PUP list. He's but there's the Jalen
still on the PUP.
Yeah, okay, that's not good. This late in camp, or you're at least over halfway through with training camp.
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt, like you said, he didn't look like much of a route runner at Tennessee. He was just like, it was like backyard football. Okay, go deep, and he was faster than everybody else. And Hendon Hooker would hit him with a deep ball, and that's what he looked like. That's why the other receiver, Tillman, looked like a better wide receiver who's on the Browns. So none of these guys, I don't see it. I don't see a draft pick, waiver wire pickup, like which is like what you like to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Slayton's 26 years old. Yeah, none of them got a lot of use last year.
No, I mean, Sterling Shepard, when he was healthy, and he's kind of been Daniel Jones's guy since Daniel Jones has been there. But the problem is Sterling Shepard's played 10 games in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is an issue. But you look at his game logs and stuff, and you see, back-to-back 10-target games, and then he gets hurt. I think he blew his Achilles, actually. He looked pretty bad. You look at in 2021, he had a 10-target, 9-target, 14, 7, 6-target game. Like, he was getting targeted. He is Daniel Jones's guy. It's just you're coming off like an ACL and then an Achilles back to back, I think is what it is.
Plus, he's 30 years old. He's got some mileage on him.
Yep. Slayton, had a really good first year, and he's kind of that deep threat. If Jalen Hyatt, I think Jalen Hyatt's going to replace Slayton if he does replace him, but I actually think it's still Slayton's role as that deep threat guy. There's two guys I'm interested in, and I do think you should draft one or two of these guys because you could be getting a starting receiver. And again, they're essentially free because they're going in like the 14th, 15th round. Isaiah Hodgins is one of them because he's very different from all these other receivers in that he has size. A lot of these guys are, the prototypical slot guys. Isaiah Hodgins is not that. He's 6'4", 210. So he has size, which a lot of these guys don't have. And we saw it last year from weeks 11 to 17 when basically they brought in Hodgins in November. And from 11 to 17, he was the wide receiver 21. He caught, I believe, 4 touchdown passes in a 6-7 game stretch. And so, yeah, he looked good last year. And so he'd be a guy I'd take a shot on. Hopefully you get like a wide receiver 3. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's back, I think you still have to take a shot on because he did look good for a few games there. Looked like he was going to explode, and then he hurt his knee. So
I think Paris Campbell. I think Paris Campbell is somebody to look at too. So
that's another one. Yeah, like those 3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because he's been getting a lot of hype. He's always gotten a lot of hype. Paris Campbell has always been this freak athlete, 2nd-round pick in 2019, could never stay healthy. Did stay healthy last year, played 17 games, 600 yards, 3 touchdowns, 63 catches, like nothing to write home about, but he finally stayed healthy. And like you said, Dad, if they are using him, maybe a little bit more hybrid, like what if he gets a carry a game? Okay, well, if you do that, it doesn't sound like a lot, but let's just say you get 20 carries on the season and you average probably 6 or 7 yards a carry because that's what wide receivers average usually when they get carries. Add 120, 140 yards to your receiving total. So it's not nothing. Yeah, I'd say those are the top 3 guys, but they're so cheap that I do think take a chance on one of them and we'll have more clarity by the time you're drafting. So, yeah, beyond that, the tight end position. They brought in Darren Waller last year or in the offseason. They traded for him, I believe.
They did.
I was very vocal in saying I was going to be completely out on Darren Waller because he fits the criteria of you got 2 back-to-back disappointing seasons, whether it was injuries or not, 2 back-to-back disappointing seasons, and you're old, right? You're 31. He's going to be 31 basically when the season starts. I'm usually out on those guys, right? But then he goes to the Giants, and I'm like, like he could, and I've mentioned this in a few different videos, the Houston one, the Kansas City. He's one of the 5 tight ends that can probably lead their team in targets. It was Kelsey, it was Andrews, it was Dalton Schultz, Kyle Pitts, and Darren Waller. Those are the 5 guys, in my opinion, that have at least a 50% chance or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if they led their team in targets. So, and he brings the size that a lot of these guys don't have. Dad, where do you have Waller? Are you back in on Waller?
No, I don't think so.
But let me tell you this: he's going tight end 7, and you can get him in the 5th round. So, like, are you taking Goddard or are you taking Waller?
Goddard. I'm not. I haven't seen Daniel Jones, throw a volume of passes to one guy. Maybe he hasn't had them or for whatever reason. I just don't think he's that type of guy. So, for Waller would have to have a big bounce back season, fantasy wise and stuff like that. Now he could be relevant in the Giant offense. I totally get that. Fantasy wise, you just made a comparison. Goddard, I'm on Goddard, I would,
yeah. No, I get that. I think I'm a little more in on Waller. I generally don't want to take the tight ends in this 5th, 6th round range just because I don't think they're enough of a difference maker. Like, Evan Ingram type of player. I'm not going to take Evan Ingram this year because he's going, in the late 6th, early 7th round. He just doesn't make a difference. Pat Fryermuth is kind of the same. Darren Waller, though, I could see finishing as the tight end 2. Kelsey's going to be tight end 1 unless he gets injured. I don't see that changing. I could see Waller being tight end 2. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I can definitely see him being a top 3 tight end and being kind of a difference maker at the position. And so, like, you asked me, like, Hawkinson in, round 4 or Waller. So he's actually going early round 6. So early round 6 for Waller versus Hawkinson. Early round 4, like, give me Waller all day. And I know we disagree there, which is totally fine. And he could just get hurt. Like, the guy hasn't been healthy. Like, we kind of mentioned it, but we haven't. Like, he's played 20 games the last 2 years. So, he's missed a decent amount of time, almost a full season's worth of games. So can't deny that. That's for sure. I just think, and all the reports in practice are like they literally have to like tell Daniel Jones not to throw the ball to Waller because he's just constantly throwing to him. And they're just like, all right, throw it to someone else because we want to get other people involved. So, I could see a tick. Like, if we're going to say, Daniel Jones, does he have a tick up in passing production? This could be the guy that kind of brings him up along with the other guys we mentioned, that ticks him up to a 3,500 yard, 20+ touchdown guy. So I can see Waller like really smashing this year if healthy. But there we have it. That's the Giants. Pretty straightforward. Besides the receiving room, you got Daniel Jones. We're good with if you want to wait on quarterback and take Daniel Jones as your guy, we're fine with that. Saquon Barkley is a 1st round pick. Take a shot on one of these receivers. I think we said Hodgins, Wandale, or Paris Campbell are probably our top 3. You can probably throw Sterling Shepard in there if he's healthy. And then Darren Waller, I'm kind of in on him. Dad, you're out. Daniel Bellinger is the backup who made some plays last year. He was a rookie last year, made some plays. Unfortunately, Waller came, and you can't really expect much from Bellinger unless Waller goes down. Just a name to keep in mind.
I think the 3 guys that I would be in on at various places in a draft would be Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and maybe Paris Campbell.
Yep. Can't disagree with that. So, we're gonna finish up there, and we'll be back with the other New York team, the New York Jets. So, as always, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be fantastic. We're gonna be here all fantasy season long, so we will catch you guys next time.